Right. Okay, so, all right, welcome. All right, this is our photo that we're going to be working from today, or should be your inspiration. And I just think it's a beautiful photo. I did not take it. I have to tell you, usually, before 2020, I would run around like a maniac, taking pictures everywhere I'd go. My husband couldn't even have a nice walk with me because I'd be like, stop, look at that, look at this. I got to do this for class. So I was always ditching him. And that's probably why I have no memory on both my phone and my computer. But so all of these now I got from a site called Unsplash, which gives you like the right to use it, use a photo without running into any copyright. And that way I'm not giving you maybe a photo that I would use for painting to put in a show. And so, I mean, once in a while I put in my own photo, so I might have one or two in here, but that's where this comes from, just so you know. So it comes from a site called Unsplash. You can get on there yourself. So, and I know Samantha last week said, should we change anything around in the composition? And you can feel free to do whatever you want. Like this tall tree, I think it's not like, I think if we like shaved like an inch off, it would be much better, and maybe it would direct the eye more toward, the center part of this where the stream is kind of running off. So, you might want to tweak that. These are definitely cell phone looking trees. It's got to be a different part of the world or the States, because our trees aren't like this at all. So some of these, where this one gets a little bit fuzzier up top, I would say, mine looked really funny, almost like a palm tree. So let's think about maybe adapting that. And I think these are two trees stuck together. So I'm tilting one a little bit anyway, but you can figure out what you want to do, how you want to do it. And if you want to just have it just like this, that's fine too. Okay, so I did basic lines out, and then I just drew straight lines for the trees. So I didn't bother to put in all the little branches. It wouldn't suit my personality. It would drive me a little crazy. So, so just straight lines, and that's what we're going to go with. And if you put in the straight lines, just don't place them all a half inch apart, right in a row, right? Better than that. So try to vary it, because in nature, it would probably be varied. And if it's not, because somebody planted them all straight and evenly put, I would still vary it. And, okay. So anyway, all right. With that, palette's still dirty from last week, which you'll see in the video that I send you, how my first thing is a big streak of yellow. And I'm like, oh, did I rinse my brush up? But anyway, so I kind of wet my colors here. Now I'm just going to wet my paper with my dirty water. It's already dirty. And let's see. All right, I'm not wetting the full sheet of paper. I'm actually just going to wet the area where the sky is at. I'll come down right to where I see the snow line. All right, so we're going to wet the paper so we can get just really a nice type of variegated wash, working wet into wet. And I'm kind of that very washy person. I love to have the paper wet. I love all the beautiful kind of smooth transitions you can get with watercolor. So, and I am using my very cruddy drafting tape. All right, so I've taped the edges. It is garbage, so it really is. And it's the same brand as this, and it's Drafting Pro, the same as I would always get, but they must have changed it, or they have made an error, so I don't know. All right, so I'm going to use my Neptune brush. Okay, so what I'm going to do, the sun is right about here in the photograph, and I'm just going to get into maybe just a little hint, not too much because yellow can take over everything, a little hint of my lemon yellow, and I'm just going to work this just around the sun. So I'm just trying to leave the sun white, and I'm going to let it kind of move off on its own. When I look at this, I see all kinds of colors, a little bit of pink, a little bit of purple, right? There's some gray in there. So I'm going to take a little bit. This looks like blue, but it's not. It is my purple Winsor Violet. And hold on, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow to that, because that will, let's see what we're gonna get with this. That will brown it up just a little bit, or gray it up just a little bit. And we'll just have it work its way over. And I'll get the other corner, trying to avoid the snow. And I'm just gonna tell you that my drawing's probably not accurate. I just, kind of put it together, so I don't spend a lot of time measuring. Maybe I should. I'm gonna get a little bit into my orange, which I love. I hate like saying all these technical names for you. If I say orange, it means Windsor orange red shade. So I don't have to say Windsor orange red shade all the time, because it's a lot to say. Okay. And you can decide how you want to kind of plunk this in. All right. That looks kind of pretty. I might like this more than the actual photograph. And then I'm just going to add maybe just a light touch of this at the bottom. And again, you know what? This brush, I kind of push my paint around with it. And so you can see I'm always wiping it off and just dragging it and dragging it around. And I'll maybe kind of wipe up all of my, I know I'm gonna get a blossom because I have that little mark there that I wanna kind of get rid of. I don't want a blossom, but it's all right. If you get a blossom, it's fine. Oh, it's not fine. So, all right. It's one of those things, less is more, and don't pick at it, and I think I should be good. Okay. Could have issues there, but it's okay. And then you can just decide to tilt your paper however you want to tilt your paper. And that's really up to you. I can tilt it to the side just to try to get everything blended in. And sometimes I put the yellow down and then I'll go for the red, or the orange. Sometimes I do the outer part and then kind of work them together. So it's really up to you. Honestly, at the end of the day, we're probably not going to notice the sky too much. So it's probably just going to just kind of blend in the background. Okay, while that is drying on its own, and I do use the hair dryer, but maybe not today, I'm going to kind of do the same mixture for what I see here, the reflection of the water. So I'm going to work on the stream. In the video that I'm going to send to you, that's the part where I tape the ceiling. So yeah. Yeah. Right. All right. That's how I am lately.
What color are you using here?
So I'm just putting in a little bit of yellow, and I'm kind of putting it a little bit in the middle.
The stream, the snow. The
Yeah. No yellow snow. No yellow snow. We're good. Okay. I was gonna say that. Yeah. No yellow snow. I'm gonna add. Yeah. Not in my painting, at least. You can do whatever you want. I'm gonna add a little bit of my kind of orange in there. So I know this isn't exactly what we're seeing, but I'm kind of comfortable with putting it in and interpreting it this way. Okay, and then I'm going to go for, I had this mixture that was my purple with a little bit of my lemon yellow, just something a little bit darker. And that's going to start to work its way towards the foreground. And here we'll just work our way. And I'm probably gonna pick on this for a little bit. But remember, we can let this dry, and then we can put different colors, different washes in here. And I can't wait to do the reflections, because the reflections really are just gonna be so much fun. All right, I'm really a fan of the Perylene Green. And if we take the Perylene Green, maybe mix it with a little bit of our Winter Violet, and we can add this down here. Now you may find, like, I can keep going on and on, probably. I'm gonna curse myself, right? But I can go on and on, adding different colors to my wet paper here, and like so far so good, you know. So you may find that you want to dry it in between. If you find like you have a tendency to get blossoms or whatever, and I know you all know what a blossom is. Samantha, you know what a blossom is, right?
Yes, I don't know how they get created.
You don't know how they get
No,
created?
It's a miracle.
Oh, I'll show you. All right. So I will sacrifice my stream for you. Are you sure? I don't mind.
No.
I don't mind at all.
Any one of us will do.
I think we're all kind of pros with blossoms, aren't we? A little bit. I think I'm going to pull some ultramarine blue. So when I think about like snow, I think about ultramarine blue, and well, if you're lucky, I might just create one all on my own here. All right. I'm going to just put a little bit of ultramarine into the reflection, and the reflections, just try to pay attention within your painting where you see the reflection. So they are all kind of on the front side of each snowbank, right? So they're not going to be on this side, they're going to be on that other side that we see. And so that's okay. All right. I'm going to add to that maybe a little bit, make it a little bit darker, so a little bit more green, a little bit more purple, kind of put in. And so the way a blossom is created, it's all about how wet your paper is and the state of drying that it's in when you go in with a wet brush, okay, with more water. So what happens is if my paper is fully dry and I put paint on, nothing's going to happen. But if my paper is damp and I go in and if I go in and my brush has more water on it, that water is going to force all the paint to go out. It'll make a ring, right? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
All right, and I'm just going to get this a little bit darker here and there. Okay, until I feel like I get you, hopefully, the right darkness. It's hard to tell until I get everything else put in, but alrighty. So that's not bad. There's something a little bit darker over here, and we'll just kind of get that little stiff edge here and there. Okay. And at some point, I'm probably going to switch brushes just because this is a big brush. And I feel that eventually it's just going to be too big for the job. Okay. Okay. So let me just. Okay. Hold on. Okay. And again, I'm just wetting that to pull some paint up, and I think I'm good. All right. So I think this is a fairly good base, and I'm going to, this is still, I can feel it. It's still a little damp, so more than likely if I go in and I put like those back kind of that layer of trees in the background, more than likely I am going to have an issue with that and I may get a blossom. So I think I'm going to take this second to just dry this, and we could push our luck. And that's where knowing your brush makes a big difference, because if you have a brush that carries a lot of water, it could give you a blossom. If you have a brush that doesn't, then it'd be safe to go in and paint. All right, so that's it's not quite looking like anything yet, but I think we should get there, hopefully pretty soon. I can see it, so I think it's good. All right, so the next thing I am going to do is I am going to just work on, there are some trees that are in the background. This is also a big brush. This is a rosemary brush. I think it's a series 402. And I really like it. It's pointed. It's so versatile. It holds a good amount of water, but I mean, I can do almost everything with this because it has one, like this really nice fine point. So it is a pointed round, and really, really like it.
What size is that?
I don't
That one that
I
you-
think it's an, I've used it so much, I've worn it off. I think it's either a 6. I think it's a 6. It could be an 8.
All right.
I'm going to go back into kind of my purpley mixture, but I'm going to put a lot of water in it. And there are these kind of distant hills that are in the background. I don't know if you can see them back there, but all righty.
What color are you using? Sorry.
So it's like it's a dirty purple or violet. Yeah. So, yeah. That's not the real name of it.
Yeah. I have plenty of those dirty colors.
It's Windsor Dirty Purple. I'm going to add a little bit. Let me see. I don't want to get too much yellow. But right kind of where the sun is kind of beaming into that area, I just want to add into that mixture a little bit of yellow. And then to get that mist, I'm going to come to the bottom, kind of wiggle the brush back and forth to make it just a little bit lighter at the bottom. And that will give it kind of that misty effect that I see. Does that make sense to you
And
guys?
is that translating to what you did in here?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay, so that I think is pretty good. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and work on some of the snow. So what I like to do sometimes is have one section dry, and then I'll go and kind of pick at another section. We do have some nice trees over there, but I think I'll work on the snow. In general, snow is going to be ultramarine blue, in general. If you put down ultramarine blue and it looks so blue that it doesn't look or feel right, you can take and maybe add a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of something just to gray it down a little bit. So let me just see if I add just a touch, not too much of burnt sienna. It will gray it down and it will not be so obnoxious. Okay, so you don't have, like, you know what I mean, like sometimes those colors just get so bright. And I'm just going to look, and you can follow along with your finger a little bit. Again, it's all up, I guess, for interpretation, but I'll kind of come through and just, so one of the things I like to do is I like to put paint down, and then I just like to use my brush to kind of push it off. Does that make sense? So you get kind of this hard edge, soft edge going on. So I'm going to go through some of the back areas, and I'm going to make some of this up for sure, just to get an indication of kind of what I'm seeing. And again, it's a little bit of color and then just pushing it along with your brush. Over here, there are like some trees kind of stuck in here, and I can put paint down. If I feel, oh, it has a little bit of purple, I can maybe kind of in that track where it's wet, and just a touch of purple, it will make it exciting, and I can just push things kind of off. All right, so we're just getting an indication of the snow, that's all. So where the snow is kind of turning down into the water on that side, I'm going to make sure that I put a little bit of blue there. And then again, just kind of break the edge up here and there if you can with a little touch of water. So you don't get that hard edge everywhere. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay. Yeah. It was a little too wet, so that didn't quite work out. And we'll keep going down into the forms over here. We're getting a little blue, but that's all right. There's this whole area where this tree is somewhat sitting, right? That, wait until we get to the snowdrifts. I can't wait. Okay, not those, but the little footprints or whatever. And again, I sense a little bit of purple within there, so I'll add a little bit of purple, and yep, okay. And then, whoops, whatever's in the foreground here, I am going to, okay. This is this will end up getting a lot darker. And let me get a little bit of blue. Now, I know this is going to be too bright, but we'll stick just a touch of blue. And then I'll go in with, all right, so I do keep slop. So on my palette, slop is a good color. And so it's hard for me to describe to you guys, which don't ask me what it is. It's slop. And,
Just don't tell anybody else you keep slapping your
yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because I would, on Tuesdays when we had life drawing going on, I would always paint a portrait and people would say, what color is that? And I'd be like, whatever was left over from Monday night, that's what colors I'm using tonight. So I never had like a set color. So I hope you can see that we're getting some depth and everything put in. I'm going to do just a little bit more. Okay. So I talk in the video that I just recorded, and I'm not always going to record a video because it is, on my end, it is, the recording part is usually easy unless you like goof up your camera, which happens, believe it or not, quite often. And, but the whole processing part, it's a lot, you know, to process it and everything. So I'm not always going to have that for you, but within it I talk about when Rick Surowitz was here, and I don't know who he got this quote from. I know it's probably not his original, and you know, Judith may know or somebody, but there's this saying to, when you're painting in watercolor, to think like a turtle and paint like a rabbit. Okay, and it is like so true. Like you have to think things out and then paint it as fast as you can sometimes, because as we're talking, this edge is going to dry, this edge is going to dry, and it might not be like the nicest look when you're done. So just remember that. I thought it was a really good, I had never heard it before, but I know he probably like got it from, I'm gonna get some purple in there, I think.
So what you're doing is putting in the shadows of the
I am. I'm gonna get some of these in. You know, and they might, like what I just did, may not quite be there. Sometimes I just go rogue. And then always have this is Bounty, I have Viva down there, but always have your Viva paper towels. And then if you need to, like, just quickly lift up something, you can do that. Have your toothbrush handy too, just in case, okay? When we get over to some of the marks that are here, and I'll put a few of the marks into the foreground. I think in the video I just did, I probably did the trees first and then put the marks in, but I just want to show you, taking some ultramarine blue, and again, it may be that if you have like some slop on your palette, you get it in there, so it's not so much, it's not so bright. And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to like just put some marks there, right? So kind of like chicken scratch or whatever. I'm going to rinse my brush really fast, and now I'm going to add just little bits of water here and there. So you get this really beautiful like soft edge, hard edge, soft edge, hard edge, and it will be a nice kind of way to, I think, depict some of the things going on in the foreground. So we can do that again. So I'm really, not that I'm really good at putting in random marks, but you can see I don't put a lot of thought into random marks like that. And sometimes a problem when students have is they're overthinking it. You know what I mean? You put too much thought into it, and then it just looks stiff, right? So I know it's kind of hard to be a little spontaneous like that, but you can practice. All right, let's see. Maybe. Alrighty, practice. Okay, and I do see, so normally cerulean blue is up in the sky. Cerulean blue, technically, I can't even believe this, but it, like they say, it's a little bit of a cooler blue, and that is because ultramarine has red in it, cerulean has more yellow or green in it. I don't know. I mean, I think we could go and argue about that, but I just see that there are some nice little like areas that may pick up some cerulean blue here and there. So feel free to, it's your painting, to get in some of those marks. Okay, so I think we're going to take care of a lot of this pretty soon, and we'll go and put a layer here later on. But what I'd like to do is just get into the trees now before I go too far with this. All right, I think I'm going to just, well, hold on. I might be okay. All right, so I think I'm just gonna push ahead. I'm not going to dry. I'm going to get some trees put in. So again, Perylene green is just a beautiful, beautiful green. It's also called shadows green. It's a beautiful green for getting trees because it's not too garish. It's not too bright. I think just in the background, you know, if you wanted to change it, you want to get a little bit of Windsor orange. Love that color. You can do that. All right. So here's the way trees work. Let's see. First, we have to make sure the paper is dry. Otherwise, we're going to have issues. A tree comes, it grows up towards the sun, right? And see how light that is? We need to create some atmospheric perspective going on. So we want our trees in the background to be lighter than the trees in the foreground. And then I'm just going to kind of dot in some of the branches coming down the boughs of the tree. Then I can even take my paper towel, stamp it a little bit. Hopefully it will set it back in the background, and you can do as many trees as you want because it seems like it's a pretty good forest. Now, when I teach like evergreen trees, I always think about up, out, down, right? So as the trees, as the branches get heavier, they don't point up to the sun anymore, they point out, and when they get really big, they get heavy and they point down. So up, that's how I think about it. You know, it's up to you. Like these trees, I don't even get them. They look weird. That it is definitely what they designed cell towers after. They saw this picture and like, yep, looks like cell tower. They're not very attractive. All right. But all right, so you can just like put a bunch of these in. You can have fun. Like, all right, so I have 3 guys right in a row. Bad, bad, bad. But try not to have them. But you can, while it's wet, you can drop in other colors. Look at that, kind of brings that one forward a little bit. Maybe because that means I'm frustrated. I'm like, oh, what's going on with this tree? Okay, all right. I just have to make it different than the other 2. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense. So you're going to get some trees in. Also over here, kind of on this side, right? I'm going to try to get this nice, I'm going to get it even darker than this, darker value. You can see how this brush really kind of gets right into the whole thing. Alrighty. And if I have another tree over here. Okay, can you see how that like kind of sets that back? And again, shadow green is not a bright green. It doesn't have a lot of chroma in it. So because of that, it's really going to kind of push itself back. But have fun and play around. And like I said before, you can add other colors in there, whatever you feel you need to do. All right. Okay. I'm just going to kind of make the edges, bring them up. Okay. Eventually I do have to run to the blow dryer. All right, so that's kind of coming down that way. I think over here, I'm gonna get some of that, my orange put in with my green. It's a little bit too gray, a little bit more green. That's gonna be good, maybe a little bit more water. Okay, and just kind of low here. So, you know, it's funny because over on this side, I feel like, you know, you always say, oh, you shouldn't have that horizon right in the middle. And I do feel that over here, we're kind of in the middle, but it does go up on that side. And all right, I'm just going to put some of these in, but I really want to get to the trees. So let's just get some of that put in, and okay.
That's your underground.
Hmm?
The underground. That you're putting in the tree.
Yeah, just over, kind of see in the background. It just really frames the snow, so it will help to give you a nice like edge here of whatever is going on, and maybe I'll just add a little bit of water. Okay, so I think I'm going to take a second. I'm going to dry this because I know if it's still wet, yeah, I'm definitely going to have my paint run.
Must be that time. I'm sorry.
Those trees were really strange looking. I've never seen a tree. They look like they're emaciated or something. They're all,
Well, just think of the pines in the
Right.
west.
they're not bald and not, yeah. So, I don't know, maybe they're frozen.
Guys, I'm not gonna do all the trees because that would mean you'd be sitting here all night while I paint this, but I am going to pick a couple of trees and then I'll get on the reflection, and honestly, this should be a lot darker in the foreground. I'll put a glaze on. So I have a few things to do, so I'm just going to try to move as fast as I can. All right, so one of the tough things with watercolor is that I have all these lines. I want to get my background done first because it's light to dark and it is background, foreground. That's usually the order. But what happens when you have a tree and you have some yellow and everything and it's kind of coming through? I don't want to end up with these heavy lines of this bleeding through, right? Because that would look bad. Don't you agree? It would look bad. So we're going to come through, and I feel like I'm going to come through with some of my quinacridone gold. Maybe I will get that mixed with some of my green, so I get a nice goldy green. All right, and just to start, I just want to start to get like some of these branches and the greens coming over. Now, here's the thing with trees. The tops of the branches, and I'm kind of off here. Okay, the tops of the greenery, so you can see it's like bleeding through there, and maybe I should have done this a little bit earlier, but I really wanted to get some of this stuff that's hanging there a little bit. Tops of the branches are usually a little bit darker. I mean, lighter, thank you, lighter. And then, yep, scratch that, Donna. And
You got me before I got it on the pen.
okay, all right. And then the underneath, and it's all logical. Like if you really like think about it, it does make a lot of sense that the underneath part would be a little bit darker. And you can decide to make this your own tree and kind of make it go, however back and forth, however you want. And I'm gonna add some shadow green. Maybe I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna into that to get some of the darks that are underneath. And okay, and I just feel the other ones are smaller and I could work those a little bit quicker, where this one, because it's a little bit larger, I'm not doing the trunk first. I feel like coming in and getting in some of these and then putting in the trunk. All right, if you're really into landscape painting and plein air painting, which would be painting outside, so the go-to book for that is John Carlson's book on landscape, and it is an excellent book. It is incredibly dry, like hardly any pictures, couple diagrams. I'm just telling you, it's like if you have problems sleeping at night, it is definitely, it's an excellent book. I have read it at least 3 times, and it's but I'm just saying that his book is great, but it's not like, if you're looking for pictures, it's not the book for you, okay? Yeah, it's not. It's a tough one to get through. All right, so you can see my tree doesn't look quite like that tree, but I think I like my tree a little bit more. And I'm gonna come over here to because this is that mound of snow, right? So we're gonna have to come back and get darks put in there. Now I'm gonna get maybe into my burnt sienna. My burnt sienna is a little bit too on the red side. Mixing it with the green should be okay. I sense I should stick some purple in here as well. But let me just dot some of the trunk end back and forth. Alrighty, so we'll just have something just kind of put in here. All right, I'm gonna rinse that off. Let me get into some purple. And maybe, we'll see. Why not, right? Okay.
Because the purple makes it gray.
You know, because a little voice in my head says purple. That's why. And that's the voice that I trust, right? I know. All right. I don't know. All right. Okay. So, all right. So I kind of like that. I think it's pretty good. This stuff will all end up getting a little bit darker. Okay. I wanted to get, there's this really ugly tree right here. It is. I love all trees, but this one is not so attractive. So we're going to just go and get this tree. It is. This one is really like, it is really, isn't it? So it is. See, you guys think I'm like making things up. See, all right. Okay. John Carlson's book that you will go out and buy sometime on, and then we can have a great class discussion about it after you get through reading.
There's no pictures, we can do it in Audible, right?
Yes, there are a few diagrams, but he does break down the landscape, and it's kind of interesting. So I'm just trying to maybe soften the bottom of the tree a little bit, and I need to do something before that dries. So this is where, yeah, you have to paint really, 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 really fast,
go like a
right?
rabbit.
You do. I mean, honestly. So let's just, because I need to break this up, this edge. I just can't have this edge be dry. If that edge dries, so you could handle it like that one if you wanted to. And again, like it's usually trees are up, out, and down. That is kind of the rule of thumb. But this tree is kind of weird. I don't know if there's a tree in back of it. Like, I know, I love trees. I really do. I can never, I can never cut down a tree. I talk to the trees, so I do love trees. I have to tell you.
That's probably a Brooklyn tree.
All righty, so let's just get, and remember, so when we're creating atmospheric perspective, you want to keep in mind that darker colors are going to come forward. I probably mentioned that already. You know what, it looks funny, like, huh? All right. I know. My kids are always,
Never enough.
all right. I do love my mom, but my kids are always like, yes, Grammy, like you said that already. And I'll be like, yeah, I know.
And when I used to tell my mother that, now my kids are telling me that, Mom, you told us that story.
All right. So I'm not 100% like sold on this tree, so maybe you can make it like a twin like this. And I feel like now that things have dried over here, maybe I would develop that a little bit more. Just a couple more trees, and then we're going to be done with trees. I'm going to dry it. I'm going to put a wash in the foreground. It's going to be enough to get you going, and that's it. Okay. Like, this tree is just really strange too. Like, Mother Nature, I'm sorry, doesn't deal us like I do too, but I don't like it as tall. So I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. And remember, trees, as they come down, these are all fairly even. Usually they're a little bit wider at the bottom. They're definitely usually not wide at the top, unless there's some, is it a Joshua tree? There's something that's wider, like the trunk, but alrighty. So let's just, so I thought this one was 2, right? Is that what you, I think it's 2. I drew it as 2, but I didn't tell you that because I'm trying to paint like a rabbit. So, alrighty. So just so we can, yeah, thanks. Alrighty, maybe I'll just lift a little bit out of there because you know what, I want to put this one in. And I'm going to get some, while that's still like that, I think because the sun is right here, I'm going to put some orange just on that side, just so maybe it will feel like the sun is giving it a little bit of warmth. And then the one next to it, I'll do something similar. All right, because it needs a friend, but it doesn't need the same friend. Maybe I'll get this a different height. But I'm doing these because I want to get to the reflection part. And okay, so there's a little friend. And again, whatever is here, let's just start to get, like, I want those just to feel like they're placed in. Okay, I haven't fully developed the reflections yet. Why do these demonstrations, I always think they're going to go fast, and then they don't. And then I'm like, oh, I get frazzled. There is the line where the water is going to like meet the ice, and you're going to the water is going to meet the snow. So you'll end up with a little bit of a darker line, of which I just kind of broke up with a little drops of water. Within here, we're going to get a lot darker coming down. And over here again, you'll have that little darker line. But I just feel kind of coming through with a little bit of water just to go and break that up a little bit. Just regarding the reflections, I'm going to come in and, okay, reflections. If it's up, it's straight down. Like, it doesn't go right, it doesn't go left. A reflection is not a cast shadow, okay? So if it's here, we're gonna put it right underneath. And if the object is dark, a reflection's going to be lighter. If the object is light, a reflection's going to be a little bit darker. That's usually how it works. Okay. I'm going with lighter because I think lighter is better. And, all right. So I know in the one that is my example that's over there, that I have gone in with maybe a little bit more of a drier brush, and I got some of these strokes in the foreground. And again, you can pay more attention to those, and just trying to push it around a little bit with water. And then, so I'm just going to take a minute. I'm going to show this to you, and then I'm going to get to my last and final thing. So this is the beginning of it. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, let me get this down just like this. Okay, finally, what I'm going to do, I just want to really create some depth going on here. So I'm going to come through with a wash of ultramarine. So I'm going to grab my ultramarine, put it in here. I'm going to make it kind of washy, and we'll see where this goes. But I know, right? But let's get, we need to get this, if we get this darker, what's going to happen is it's going to push everything back in space, okay? So if we keep it light, maybe I'm going a little too much with the ultramarine blue, but it's enough to give you the idea. I really love to have, so snow is cold, so having any type of quinacridone magenta kind of woven in there would be really pretty. I would avoid the yellow just because it doesn't always work out how you think it. I know, it doesn't always work out. And even some of this, like I look at that and I almost feel like that's, oops, not turquoise, it's not turquoise. It is.
What are you putting? Cerulean blue?
Cerulean blue, yeah. I hit into the turquoise, that's why. Okay. Just because really, I always find like the whitest spots, it may not be fully in the background, but I find that white kind of hangs around in the middle part. Anyway, what do you think? Is it enough to get you guys going with all that? All right, gives you the idea. All right, go get him. All right, go get him.